Good afternoon, everyone, and very good afternoon to our respected Colonel B. Venkat sir. In this session, we are having Colonel B. Venkat sir, Director, Faculty Development Cell, AICTE New Delhi, with us. Sir, may I have your voice, please? Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Very clear, very clear. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Very
Uh,
good afternoon, ma'am.
so, participants, be ready. And, sir, this session is all yours. I hand over the session to you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, pleasure interacting with you once again. It was great meeting yesterday to you people when we had that initial introduction, and I was also part of that. So, towards that, today happens to be continuous as part of your training program from what we started yesterday. And I recollect you people were on emerging areas. But application of those emerging areas into the day to day reality when it comes to learning engineering and then putting into practice needs to be implemented, and that implementable points as per some policy which the government is following happens to be the national education policy. So there is a direct connect between what we as a teachers are learning and then what as an implementable point we need to understand and appreciate. So what I'm going to be telling you people is on the national education policy. One, why is it important? It is important simply because you, as faculty members and teachers, are living in an era which is driven by the national education policy. And when it is driven by national education policy, each one of you should be understanding the finer points and nuances of the NEP, whereby at your respective places, let it be classroom, department, institute, you should be in a position to contribute. That is what is the necessity. I've always been telling. Once again, I'll request everybody who all are connected, please find yourself capable of contribution. That is the word that we look forward to. Anybody who feels he or she is capable, they should come forward. But for that, understand what is expected out of you. So having said this much, the national education policy announced July 2020, 29th July to be precise. So today when we are meeting, we are about an year and 5 6 months down the line. So this is a huge time, a long time, and the policy has been announced, policy has been released. Lots of implementable points, lot of actionable points, lots of agendas have been finalized, issued, and certain issue activities are still ongoing. It is very important for us to first of all appreciate and understand all of them. Then only you will be in a better position as to how things are going. And to start with, I am not showing any presentation, neither is there any slides. This is with a simple reason that I will request each one of you to listen to me as to what I'm speaking. As far as meeting me in person was concerned, I was there yesterday. So you would pardon me for not switching on the video. As far as NEP is concerned, it divided into two activities. One is called as school education, another is called as higher education. The school education, ladies and gentlemen, from the time it was earlier 10 plus 2, now has got shifted and presently is under the ambit of a proposal which is going 5334. Why is it necessary and important for each one of us to understand what's a school education and then come to higher education? Because ultimately it is the same set of students who would be interacting with you tomorrow. So for understanding the concept of school education, the first five, that is called as the foundational stage. And when you call it a foundational stage, that implies 3 years of pre-primary in classes 1 and 2. Why this is important? This is important because at this particular time and in this forum, students will be made to undergo education in their regional languages. And this is extremely important and one of the biggest outcome of this national education policy, which says promotion of regional languages in education, not only in school education, but also in higher education. What is the logic? What is the reasoning? The logic and reasoning is very simple. It has been observed and it has been found out that in case if a student is given an opportunity to study in his regional language, obviously and understandably, the uptake and intake is much, much better. And we together can actually promote education to that remote and rural areas wherein because of language barriers, students could not come for education. So that is the positivities which we need to understand as far as promotion of regional languages is concerned. And at the same time, it has also been psychometrically proved or proven that it is the regional languages only in which the student is able to pick up and understand in a much better manner, so to get a better grasp and holding or understanding of the situation. Another very important aspect of regional languages happen to be increase of the gross enrollment ratio. This is another very important aspect of the national education policy. And when we talk of the gross enrollment ratio as of today for higher education, because we are talking for higher education, stands at 27.1. 27.1 means for every 100 students who are applicable for higher education in the age bracket of 18 to 23, we have only 27.1 students who are coming forward to pursue higher education. So that leaves a huge bracket of students, roughly 72.9, who cannot go for higher education. Reasons can be plenty, many. We need to address them and we need to increase this gross enrollment ratio. National education policy desires that this gross enrollment ratio should come to 50. And to getting it to 50, there has to be multiple ways, means multiple attempts, multiple initiatives, and people need to come together and do this activity. So this particular activity which we are doing of promotion of regional languages happens to be one of the biggest activity. And let us also tell you, connect straight away to higher education. At higher education, also the regional languages have been made that a student should be in a position to pursue regional languages, also higher education in regional languages. In technical education, AICT has allowed additional supernumerary seat of 30 to 60 as far as to pursue education is concerned to any willing department who wishes to take it. We have initiated 2 parallel activities so far as to take on this initiative ahead. One happens to be translation of SWAYAM online MOOCs courses into 12 regional languages, because today if you people understand the concept of SWAYAM, the complete concept of SWAYAM online MOOCs courses happens to be in English. So translating that English component into regional languages, 1. And number 2 is original textbook writing for technical, for degree and diploma to start with, and then subsequently translation of these degree and diploma into regional languages. So that is what is the activity which is today going on, and surely these activities are going to be having a major effect and impact on the overall increase of the gross enrollment ratio. So these are the biggest takeaways as we understand, the student as to how he's moving ahead in his education. Keep connecting as to where national education policy points keep coming in. Now the next step which comes is 5-3-3-4. The first 3, that is called as preparatory level. So the first stage was the foundational level, now is the preparatory level. And when you call it a preparatory level, that means the classes 3, 4, and 5. That is immediately after class 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. What is important out here? Student gets to pursue his education in the medium of instruction, that is in any language that he or she has so preferred. That is 1. And number 2, this is the stage wherein a little bit of introduction or for the first time, vocational or skill-based activities are also introduced. And once you say that vocational or skill-based activities are introduced for the first time, please appreciate and understand what in school education or junior education is called as skill. As we move up in higher education, these subjects are called as vocational education. And to immediately connect you as to what is the implication of this, the implication of this is to make students understand the necessity and importance of skill learning at a very early stage along with general education. So this is an initial introduction, and by this initial introduction that takes us immediately to what is called as a skill-based activity and a vocational subject. Let us understand what in higher education also it is spoken in higher education. So whatever reasons today as we stand and as we see, general education is something which each one of us pursue. Vocational education is something which is always considered to be little bit inferior for whatever reasons. That is not a question of debate. What needs to be understood immediately at this point of time is that whatever difference between these two is will be removed, and the learning outcomes of general education and vocational education would be aligned in such a manner that the difference will not be existing. For this, what all needs to be carried out if need be, and that is exactly what I am saying. This is now what I'm saying is happening. For the purposes of general education, there will be certain credit-based courses which will be incorporated into your curriculum, and the purpose of these credit-based courses will be to have certain skill-based activity introduced. As far as the vocational education is concerned, there will be certain bridge courses which will be incorporated to so as to make them at par, and that is how you achieve. So as we say today, as we stand today, model curriculum of AICT, which is hosted on the website of 2018 website of AICT, it is already under revision. And this model curriculum, which today when I'm saying is under revision, basically the revision is going about to incorporate two of the biggest mandates of it, and one of the biggest mandates happen to be to enable integration with vocational education. That is one. And number two happens to be very important aspect of national education policy. And that second aspect of national education policy is to enable multiple entry and multiple exit. Mind you, this is a very, very important topic which requires thorough overhauling and revision of the curriculum, and that is exactly what is happening to enable these two activities. So that is what is going to be at every level. At the national level, there's going to be a committee of National Committee for Integration of Vocational Education. As we speak, that committee has already been established. That committee's mandate is going to be to find out the mandate of NHQF, find out the mandate of NSQF, that is National Higher Education Qualification Framework, National Skill Qualification Framework, and then align these two so that the educational qualification parameters and skill qualification parameters are matching. This is exactly what I wish to tell you. This is what I wanted to tell you about vocational education, and I also wanted to tell you what all has happened as of now. Very interesting. The sentence has been written as far as the vocational education is concerned, and that sentence happens to be introduction of Lok Vidya as a credit-based activity. Now, what is Lok Vidya? Lok Vidya happens to be nothing but our traditional regional knowledge, and this traditional regional knowledge, as we call it, is the knowledge which is possessed by our artisans, and these artisans over a period of time have been handing over from generations to generations down for, but unfortunately these have never been introduced into mainstream. And because of lack of integration into the mainstream, it's a question of increase of the livelihood. It's a question of connect with the society. It's a question of our giving back to the system. That is how you connect with schools. That is how you connect with society. That is how you connect with very, very micro industries, as these are called as. So that is what is Lok Vidya. So Lok Vidya has been told to be taken up as a credit-based course into education. Remember this word credit-based course, because the question which you people immediately, each one of you should be asking is how to make a credit-based course, and that too in technical education. How do you incorporate a credit-based activity? Now, this particular subject is something, keep it up. I'm going to be coming to it immediately. Now, after having understood what is the five, after having understood what is three, that means the foundational and the preparatory stage. Now we move forward, and moving forward, we come to the next level, and that is what is middle level. Once we come to middle level, that is classes 6, 7, and 8. Now, this is the stage wherein a student still gets a chance or an option to pursue education in the medium of instruction that he or she has so desired. And at the same time, this is the first time that a student will be also given an option to pursue education in any other medium of instruction. Primarily speaking, should a student wish to go to English, we cannot deny it. Because understandably, English happens to be a medium of instruction which is being spoken internationally, and that is the financial medium of speaking language. So English can also be taken as an optional medium of instruction. That is what. And second very important aspect was, what was an initial introduction between the vocational education and school education and with general education. Remember these 3 points: vocational, school, and general now becomes holistically integrated. And this is the time when these three needs to be now connected with higher education. So there comes a role of higher educational institutes, and when the role of higher educational institutes comes in, it is expected, and that is what is mandated as for the various government of India initiatives and such as Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. It is mandated that the institutes, higher educational institutes will be then going ahead and be taking up the initiatives of connect with the society, connect with the immediate vicinity and geographical area, wherein something of imparting kind of a mutual growth. So the higher educational institutes will be expected to interact more and more with tier 2, tier 3 institutes. They will be expected to interact with their schools. They would be expected to interact with their geographical region. And that is how you have a societal connect. Once you have higher educational institutes also coming into it with schools, there is expected to be a large movement. And when I say the movement, it implies that there is going to be physical interaction between the teachers, physical interaction between the school children and the college. So, as to make college going students very much aligned and aware of the necessity which is supposed to be integrated into the school children, and accordingly school children also to understand as to what is the discipline, what is the subjects which needs to be pursued towards shaping their career. That is when it happens. It is called as holistic integration between the school education to general education to vocational education to higher education. This is what is expected, this is what is mandated, and this is what is one of the biggest outcome of national education policy. Mind you, all these things are already happening. It's just a question wherein we need to be actually realizing it and then integrating it in a very collective manner. So having said this, now comes the last level, 5, 3, 3, 4. The 4, it happens to be secondary level. Secondary level classes 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. This is exactly where the bulk of the national education policy highlights come into play. And how does it come into play? At school level itself, it has now been said that a student will not be in a position or will not be forced to undergo education what is to be forced upon him. What it implies? It implies that there will be a subject which will be open to him. He can pick and choose subjects for the purposes of pursuing his education. And if the same thing is given at school level for the purposes of pursuing his education, this kind of a system of education is called as learner centric. And this is exactly what is desired. This is exactly what is written. And in case if suppose learner centric system of education is coming in school system itself, whereby the subjects can be picked and chosen by a particular students. The education that a student is likely to get or will be given is called as multidisciplinary in nature. And when we talk of the multidisciplinary subject, multidisciplinary then straight away comes to higher education. And in higher education, multidisciplinary can be divided into two aspects. Important to understand that multidisciplinary can be in academics, multidisciplinary can be in institution. Let us tackle both of them for the ease of understanding. If you speak about multidisciplinary in academics, it implies that a student now needs to be having a multidisciplinary holistic education, wherein education should not be only on a single discipline or a stream. Yesterday, recollect, I said the same thing. When you people are speaking about emerging areas now need to be understood that they need to be integrated into your core discipline. That is what is called as the multidisciplinary concept of education. Multidisciplinary concept of education proposal, which is there, is called as a 40-20-20-20. It's just a rough proposal. It's a breakdown of the percentages with no fixed value. But the percentages broken down are just a hypothetical example, with the first 40 being the core subjects, 20 being the core electives, next 20 being the basic sciences and humanities, the last 20 being open electives. So just do an analysis of this. You will appreciate and understand that the first 40 and 20, 60% still goes to the core. So the primacy and importance of the core subjects will continue to be maintained. Basic sciences and humanities, 20% of the credits for attaining whether a certificate, diploma, PG diploma or degree is very much still open. And thereby, when you give it to basic sciences and humanities, you come into the concept of interdisciplinary. Last 20, that is the 20% of the overall credits, is for open electives. Now, what are these open electives? Open electives can be anything which can be put into this basket, can be made a credit-based activity. Then can the student be given an option to pick and choose? It can be Now you appreciate and understand that subject of Lok Vidya, I said. That Lok Vidya subject can now very well fit into this open electives basket as a credit-based activity, subsequently to be given as an optional for student to fulfill. And ideally, in this connection, I would recommend everybody to please read a chapter on professional education on national education policy. And in that professional education chapter on the national education policy, it has been very clearly mandated that the education so provided to students will be a professionally and a holistic education, whereby students should be made to undergo the whole education system in such a manner that the attainable graduate attributes at the end should be in such a manner that the student should not only be capable of getting employed, but should be in a position of generating employment. This can only happen provided he is given a full plethora of exposure during his graduation time. And at the same time, agriculture, health, and legal have been mentioned. They have been mentioned with the reason that these three happen to be the most important activities which everybody needs to be understanding. So the basics of agriculture, health, and legal needs to be understood by everybody. And for that matter, these can also be made as credit-based courses and then be sent into the open electives for the students to pursue. This is how you fill up the basket of open electives. It is also recommended, besides this, there can be number of more courses. Some of them can be universal human values, Indian knowledge system, Indian dance, Indian music, Indian yoga. You name a thing and you can put it. That is for the pick and choose for a student to fulfill his obligation towards completing the total number of credits. And hence, he or she achieves multidisciplinarity. Now, to understand what's a multidisciplinary in institutions, it is extremely important to understand that why the subject of multidisciplinary institutes came into place at first place. It came because today's education system happens to be highly fragmented system of education system, wherein multiple institutes are existing in a standalone format, and with each institute providing a system of education which is parallel to the another one, but with no collaboration or coordination between the two. If that be the situation, and if that be the cases between the institutions, the education system falters. And hence, the NEP 2020 desires or comes out with a proposal that the only institutions which will be in existence will be multidisciplinary higher educational institutes. And these multidisciplinary higher educational institutes will be teacher centric, will be research centric, or will be autonomous degree granting. As for the national education policy, there will be one multidisciplinary higher educational institute per district with minimum 3,000 students. And in due course of time, they would be given graded autonomy. Now, what's autonomy? Appreciate and understand the word autonomy. Autonomy means freedom. In education, autonomy means freedom for administration, finance, expansion, and in academics. Let us not talk about administration and finance. Let's talk about academics. Freedom in academics implies, again, that is autonomy, implies freedom to design course, content, curriculum, offer them, take them credit course, or make it a degree, diploma, PG diploma, agree or disagree on the credits of the neighboring institutes. Complete methodology for framing a curriculum is with the autonomous institute. That is what is the autonomy. And once you have these multidisciplinary higher educational institutes, autonomy being given to them, quite understandably, there will be some governing body, a structure of a governing body which needs to be in existence. And once you have a structure of a governing body in existence, that structure more or less should be with a board of governors, academic council, management, and then there needs to be various departments. Why I am saying this? It's a basic thing. Each one of you would have understood this. But there's a reason as to why I'm saying this. And the reason as to why I'm saying this at this point of time is simply because it is these multidisciplinary higher educational institutes who then need to be exercising and implementing the option of multiple entry and multiple exit. Recollect, I told you this. Multiple entry and multiple exit implies the students who could not pursue education for whatever reasons and had to take a dropout or had to take a break in between can now come back into the education at whatever point of time and then pursue the education from the same place where they left with their credits retained intact. And as we say, this particular model has already been implemented. This model has been introduced. The guidelines and framework for this thing have been finalized against the initial, wherein we were only having the top 100 NIRF ranking institutes and the NAC institutes with A grade who were applicable. Now it has been broadened with universities and even autonomous institutes coming into the particular mandate for the purposes of accepting or following this particular model of multiple entry and exit. And accordingly, academic bank of credit has to be set up, ABC. And for accepting the setting up of academic bank of credit, the guidelines, framework, and regulations have already been finalized and circulated. The point of telling each one of you this is that it is these activities which are a continuous activities, and it is no more on paper. These activities are now actually speaking becoming a reality. That is what is called as implementation of NEP. It's very easy to speak the policy. It is high time now that when we people discuss NEP, we should be talking about implementation. So this is exactly what I'm talking. At every time when I'm telling you what is an NEP, policy, guidelines, I'm speaking about implementation also. Appreciate and also understand what we have seen in the last 2 years. Touch and go nearly 2 years, we have actually speaking seen the complete education system going in online. What was the genesis of going into online? Maybe it was forced upon us due to certain circumstances beyond our control. But what is so very worthy and appreciable is that the complete system, when it went online, was so ably supported, handled, and managed by each and every faculty member in every institute, irrespective of whichever institute, whether government, private, autonomous, or university that you are working in. So that is highly commendable and appreciable. But the point of my saying here is, even though the system went online and we were able to support it, online system of education is going to be there. Okay, we have 40% of the credits which can be taken in an online format by the students for the purposes of fulfilling their degree, certificate, or diploma. But in due course, how much will be the percentage? Nobody knows. But yes, percentage will continue to be there, which implies that online system of education will continue. And this online system of education and ODL method of education has already been introduced. AICT has already amended the approval process, and we have allowed for online and ODL, wherein to commence with, we have also started in technical, we have started for transport, logistics, travel, tourism, MCA, even for certain engineering courses such as artificial intelligence and data sciences, where hands-on experience is minimal. We have allowed for online and ODL, and this online and ODL is also going to play a very, very important role towards overall increase in the gross enrollment ratio. See, ultimately, everything what is being spoken is connected. Everything has to be connected, and that is how you have a collective movement forward. So this also will play a major impetus and role in the overall improvement of the gross enrollment ratio. Let us also appreciate and understand what is this national education policy all about. The national education policy is all about improvement of students. When we talk of improvement of the students, it has got an angle of faculty members and it's got an angle of institutions also. But the most important aspect of the NEP is for improvement of the students towards giving them a holistic, attainable graduate attributes by means of professional education. So if that be the case, there is a full chapter on students on inclusive education. Once you talk of inclusive education, there are immediately the point which come to our mind is about access, equality, equity. It comes as autonomy, accountability. It comes as affordability and quality. So there are 7 words which I have spoken. Understand each one of them very clearly. Access is that making everything available to a student, whether it be a platform, institute, laboratory. In today's time, even the internet. Equality is to understand that every student is same. There will be no differentiation between any students for the purposes of caste, culture, religion, or financial status. Equity is to understand that no two human beings are born alike, and accordingly, no two students are alike. Every student has their individual capability or capacity to understand and pick up. Identifying this and thereby giving a personal attention, that is what is called as equity. Autonomy, we spoke about academics, but there when I spoke, It was autonomy and then connectivity with institutes, and hence the word accountability comes into play. Remember, autonomy can never be separated from accountability. At that point of time, accountability is institutes, but here, when I'm trying to talk, accountability is the faculty members. And hence, multiple initiative schemes by AICT towards making faculty members capable, their capacity building. And at the same time, when all this is happening, quite understandably, 360-degree feedback mechanism so as to make them accountable also. That is what is called as accountability. Then comes is affordability. When we talk of affordability, it is nothing but making the education system that much more financially viable to make larger section of the society come into play. As when we are talking of students, quite understandably, multiple schemes to make students, give them scholarships to make them capable, come into the education, and at the same time, bringing in two very landmark activities into the mandate of NEP. One happens to be provisions for the young students, and number two happens to be provisions for students with learning disorder. These are two different categories. Divyangs are the physically handicapped, and students with learning disorders are students who have a little bit of less understanding of the education system or less understanding of the uptake of what is being spoken. So these are two categories of inclusion as far as the students are concerned. And then we come to the last, and that happens to be quality. Quality in education, ladies and gentlemen, is very simple. It is achieving certain set standard benchmark and parameters, which otherwise speaking are universally and internationally accepted. And once you achieve that benchmark and parameter, each one of us collectively can say that you have attained quality. Quality in life can vary from individual to individual. What may be quality for you may not be quality for me or somebody else. But when we speak about quality in education, it is called as accreditation. And hence, all these multidisciplinary autonomous higher educational institutes will be mandatorily accredited. That is what is the terminology. That is what is the word which is being spoken. So having got the whole concept of NEP, what is the end state of NEP? What is desired in NEP? NEP end state and desire is we expect to see India at a global hub of education. We expect to see Indian education system at the topmost in the world. We expect to see our country as the global destination as far as education is concerned. And for that, extremely important chapter are called as internationalization of education or global outreach of education. And when you say these things, there are multiple opportunities, multiple ways, means administratively, but let us talk about what is the academic way of achieving this. If you recollect, when I was speaking of the open electives, I was speaking about Indian knowledge system, universal human values, Indian dance, yoga, music. Why was I speaking Indian? There was a thought process behind it, and the thought process is, should you be incorporating these into our education system as and when multidisciplinary higher educational institutes do come into play? It is these Indianness of education, by bringing in our morals, values, cultures, and ethos, by bringing in our wisdom, which we have got inherited from Vedas, Rig Vedas, that is going to bring in a cultural change. And once you bring in an Indianness into the education system, it is very much without doubt we will be in a position to attract foreign students to come to India. And not only we will be in a position to attract foreign students to come and study in India, on the other side, the reverse flow of Indian students going abroad for the purposes of pursuing higher education will also be stopped. And you will be having a larger group of students coming into your own country to study. This is the power of Indianness of education system. And as we say this, AICT has already got an Indian knowledge system cell at AICT. We have established an office. We are working towards promotion of Indian knowledge system. Indian knowledge system means bringing about awareness of Indian culture, Indian history, as to where we were as far as this complete dynamics or various aspects or various disciplines of science is concerned. It is called as revival of the past, and understanding that everything what we are studying has got a connect, and that is what is going to bring about a revolution into the Indian education system. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is That is what is in whole the nutshell of national education policy. But try to at least understand now the student is still in school, and as and when he graduates or comes out from school and comes to higher education system, so the first time a student is going to be interacting with each one of you. You people are the faculty members in higher education system, and once you are the faculty member in higher education system, when a student comes and interacts with you, give a thought that student is going to be much more wiser, much more knowledgeable, much more practical and oriented towards understanding the subject in a much better manner. And this is not far. Don't expect that you're going to count 5 3 3 4 and then after 15 years this is happening. No, this is just going to happen next year. And if that be the case, very important aspects, two very important chapters. One is called as integration of technology and second is called as faculty training. Integration of technology, in my understanding, is the most important subject unless and until you do not know the nuances of technology. You do not know how to integrate the various technological aspects available into your practices of teaching and learning. You're going to be left behind. It's something which is mandatory now for each one of us to understand the technology and incorporate into our day-to-day practice of teaching and learning. At the national level, there's going to be a National Education Technology Forum, NETF, whose only role is going to be to continuously keep monitoring e-content, e-platform, e-tools, e-literature, which are available, and then moderating them and compiling them and keep disseminating them to institutes and faculty members for the purposes of continuous enhancement of the faculty or their capacity building. Another very important term which has been used in NEP happens to be IDP, institutional development plans. Institutional development plan will have to be set up, and this is where institutional development plan will be set up under the respective board of governors and the academic councils towards continuously improvement of an institute in a holistic manner, which includes multiple administrative activities, multiple academic nature activities. That is also a mandatory activity which will be carried out. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you understood this thing, that the last aspect which I will focus on that is now you people, faculty. Faculty training is a must. It has been spoken. Continuous faculty training towards realignment and understanding of the various nuances or emerging areas or activities which keep developing needs to be kept into consideration. The faculty member needs to be regularly updated, and that is what is called as keeping you aligned and current and relevant. And this particular online activity which is happening is one of the activities towards that only. So small, very small activity of a 1 week duration, but yet it contributes immensely towards the overall implementable points of the national education policy towards making our faculty members that much more relevant and capable. So, if I may sum it up in the end, ladies and gentlemen, I've tried my best to make each one of you understand as to what is NEP, what are the nuances, mandate, provisions, and guidelines of NEP. I've tried to make you understand the various points which at multiple times have been spoken, some of them implemented, some of them in the process of implementation, initiative schemes of the government of India. I would request many of you to visit AICT website. You will be in a better position to understand this subject much more. And at a national level, what the structure is going to be, you're going to be having a structure called as HECI, Higher Education Commission of India. Under Higher Education Commission, we are going to have 4 verticals. First one is called as NHERC, National Higher Education Regulatory Council, which will be a single body carrying out regulation. Second is going to be the Higher Education Council, that is the General Education Council. The General Education Council is going to be the professional standard setting body, which would be the continuously monitoring the content curriculum, aligning it to international and industrial needs. Third is going to be the Higher Education Grants Council, body which will be releasing grants to all institutes, irrespective of their status of being government or private. Aligned to it is going to be the National Research Foundation, NRF. The purpose of NRF will be to monitor research. Rather than having a disjointed research, it will be a collaborative research aimed at only national importance and national requirement. And last but not the least is going to be a body called as NAC, National Accreditatory Council, which will be a single body responsible for the purposes of accreditation. I hope I have been in a position to make you people understand. I hope on an afternoon on Saturday, you people have understood the subject of national education policy, and you people will be in a better position now to go back and at least open the website, because this is on the domain. You can go and see this. Everybody should be understanding what is NEP. I would request everybody to please find yourself fitting into implementable activities of NEP now. This is exactly where role comes into play. Each one of you should find where I can fit into best for the purposes of supporting it as far as the implementation is concerned. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was great interacting with you people, and I hope the talk has been that much more interesting for you people to now go and study it further. Thank you. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure once again. Best wishes and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. I should be saying thanks to everybody.
Any questions to participant?
No issue, sir. No issue. My request would be,
Yes.
sir, in case if suppose somebody has got a point or somebody even has a recommendation for implementation, request if you can compile on my behalf and you can have it sent to me by mail or WhatsApp. Anything will do, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
And
sir.
with your permission, sir, I would then take a break, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Participant, I have sent the feedback link, and you will be there in the group. Just 5 minutes, I will send the link.